Hey gun people, gonna do a little revolutionary tactics tip here. Unless you've ever worked in tactics and kind of worked around people who are supposed to be trying to be quiet, or you're trying to sneak in or take an objective, whether in training or real life, there's certain tactical things you need to consider. So it's gonna get a little, I was just chasing down wasps in the garage and I was like, oh shit, let me make this, I gotta run and go early vote. So I gave you the ladder. I'm gonna climb up this ladder here, get on this roof. If you can see that foam up there, the water was getting in with my horses. If I can get up here without falling. Oh shit. Alrighty. So I am on my roof of this little shed out here, and you can tell I put some foam here. And I guess they said if you don't paint this, the sun will dry it out and make it dark. So I'm gonna put some paint over it. I had just enough. What's happened is the water was blowing underneath this air vent and soaking the inside of where the horse is standing, where my food's at. So I wanted to stop that. So I put this foam. But when I was up here, it made me remember, because my neighbor was over on his house over there messing around, and as I looked around I was like, dude, I got pretty good, I'm gonna hold this straight up so I can I got pretty good of a view or angle up here. It's probably not as high as my roof over there. It's not as high as my house roof, but it's a pretty easy roof to get on if I wanted to check out around my property and get a good clear vision. And as I was up here doing this, of course I would be laying down, and so I want to discuss some pros and cons of being up top if getting high ground. Everybody knows high ground is usually the advantage. Remember, when you're sighting in guns, we always sight them in at level ground. So if you're shooting from high ground, shooting to low ground, your point of aim and your sighting end is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be affected. Same way as if I'm at the bottom of a hill and I'm shooting at something up a hill. My point of aim is going to change. Gravity's different. I'm shooting at an angle. It looks different through the scope because I'm shooting up versus down. And remember, your bullet climbs when it leaves and then it falls as it gets farther out with gravity. But I talk about that in another video. But what I wanted to cover about high ground is noise. And I was up here squirting, and I was saying hi to my horses, which I can't see. There they are. They're back there now. So they are in the bushes back there. I don't know if you can see them. I can't see because the sun is washing out my little screen. But they're in that little tree line there. And you should be able to see them. I just can't see them, and so I can't point right at them. But I'll stay pointed in the general direction. So I was up here talking to my horses, going, hi buddy, and if I talk now, they can hear me. They already know I'm up here, believe me. When something comes up high, they know, they recognize. So things to consider when you're up high. One, it gives you the advantage of looking down and looking further and having a nice clear view of things at a distance. The disadvantage is it's very easy to stick out. You create what's called a skyline behind you. So if you don't stay low and you don't stay very even with what you're on top of, you'll give away your position very easily. But a big thing that people miss when you get high ground is noise. For some reason, noise is amplified and your voice carries much further. I don't know if it's because it's higher, because the air is thinner, because there's some physical, structure that explains it. All I know is it works. And when you're high, if I got somebody hiding high and I'm quiet, I can hear them before they can hear me. Don't ask me why. If somebody wants to explain it with some physical scientific study formula, V equals minus C squared square root of a liberal, whatever. When you're high, you really need to have what's called noise discipline. Any talk, any whisper, any lighting a cigarette, thumping a skull scan if you're gonna, or a can, if you're gonna put a little skull in your mouth, unzipping your pants, whatever you do when you're high, man, people below and on the ground can hear. And if you ever want to tell this, go in a neighborhood where they're working on a roof, and you got guys working on a roof, and you'll notice you can hear them a lot farther away, and you hear everything they say very clearly. And you're like, wow, you know, if I'm on the ground talking to somebody and I was that far, I couldn't really hear them. But when they're on the roof, man, I tell you, sound travels extremely far, faster, better when you're high, and it just naturally goes farther from you making noise versus you hearing noise. So although you get a sight advantage when you're high and using tactics, you will lose a hearing advantage, and you will also give anyone else a hearing advantage, because any noise you make whatsoever when you're high, you're going to be heard, and it's very easy. And if you get somebody else up here and you guys are talking or communicating, man, I'm telling you, you're gonna give away your position, and somebody is going to be able to listen to your conversation perfectly. Now the flip side of that, because all tactics is, if you're doing it, it could be bad or good, but if the enemy's doing it, it can be bad or good. So if your enemy is up high and they have high ground and they're talking, you can hear, you can listen. It's very easy to gather intel from listening to them. Them not being able to hear you, you can hear them, you can keep an eye on them. They're going to be higher and be able to see you too, but you know, whatever the enemy uses against you, you can use against them. And whatever you use against your enemy, remember, they can use it against you. And there's usually yin and yang, good and bad, and pros and cons. So I really wanted to cover this because my neighbor, when he was over there, he's digging the rocks, and I'm up here talking to my horses, and I kept seeing him looking, and he kept looking over my property like, where the hell is he at? And so then I started messing with him, going, hey, hey! And he'd look, and he could not see me. Even though I was standing on top of this roof, he was not used to looking up, and I wasn't creating enough of the skyline, or the sun was behind me, and he couldn't see me, but he could not figure out where the hell I was at for a good 10 minutes. And finally I went, look on top of the roof! And he glanced around, he goes, oh shit, there you are! So, I mean, although he heard me, it was very hard for him to pinpoint. So your sound may travel, but it may be harder to pinpoint. But if there's only one high area in an area, and you got noise coming you can't find, you're going to look at a high area. If there's a bunch of high areas, then it may be a little bit more difficult to find. But anyway, that's my revolutionary tip on concealing yourself, getting high ground, pros and cons, understanding that for every good you do, there's always usually a negative, and knowing both sides and knowing how that can be used against you and how you can use it against your enemy is always good to know, and that's good tactics. All right, we'll end that there on Revolution. Man, I really wish I could zoom in on my boys out there. I think I almost got him. I think that's him right there. Is that Buddy? Yeah, there they are. Hi, boys! And they are pretty good distance out there. I mean, they probably could have heard me even if I wasn't up top, but they really hear me when I'm up top. Anyway, we'll end that there.